Well, for more on the polar vortex gripping much of the United States, let's go to Bob Henson with Weather Underground. Bob, explain to us what exactly is a polar vortex?
Well, a polar vortex is a natural part of our weather climate system. It's always there, spinning above the north and south poles a few miles high. When we refer to an event like this, it's when the polar vortex splits and a piece or a lobe of it moves down to lower latitudes. And so that's exactly what's happened this week.
I mean, it's worth noting that we are at the end of January, the dead of winter in much of the United States. So is it really that unusual to have conditions like this?
This particular event is pretty unusual. It's about a once in 30 or 40-year cold wave. I mean, Chicago has already gotten below minus 30 Celsius this morning. We expect in Illinois it may get below minus 40 C, and wind chills are actually in some places lower than minus 50 C. So these are conditions you only get every few decades. So if you're a young person, you've probably never seen cold like this before.
And how long is this going to last?
Fortunately, not very long. The system is moving right along, and by this weekend, early next week, it's quite possible Chicago will be well above freezing, maybe 5 or 10 C. So it's a quick hit, but it's a very intense hit. And for folks who aren't prepared or haven't experienced it, it is really important for people to take precautions.
And what kind of precautions should people take? I mean, what do you tell people in Minnesota and Chicago who have to go to work?
Well, folks there obviously are used to winter weather, but this kind of goes a step beyond usual preparations. For one thing, folks really shouldn't breathe in too deeply because getting that super cold air in your lungs is just not good overall. People should make sure that if they're out in a car that they have adequate equipment in case the car stalls or something. So just taking that extra step to make sure that you're going to be safe no matter what happens.
Bob, I have to ask you about President Trump, who has repeatedly cast doubt on climate change. Do winter storms and this kind of bone-chilling, frigid condition, temperatures, do they dispel the threat of global warming? Do they prove climate change doesn't exist?
In a word, no. Basically, when you have an intense weather setup, as happens once in a while, it can overwhelm the overall warming signal, and we can get a cold episode like this. But when you look at the long-term average, conditions are warming globally. Extreme cold is becoming less common, extreme heat is becoming more common. But we still have weather, In the United States last year, we've had a little over 10,000 record lows, but more than 20,000 record highs. So a particular event does not prove or disprove climate change. We have to look at the big picture, the global picture over a long period to really confirm that the globe, in fact, is warming.
And are we going to have a brutal summer?
Very good question. That's a little on the edge of seasonal prediction, but we are working on modeling of all time scales. IBM has a new global weather forecasting model that could help, for example, pin down weather events like this more precisely and a little more into the future. So with seasonal forecasting, that's another frontier that we hope we can get into over time.
All right, we'll leave it there. Bob Henson, thank you.